Oh, well, the right-wing nutballs here in the U.S. are really going at it now, trying to get a fascist government as fast as they can. They've come up with some lies, such as drag queens and drag queen shows being shown in schools. Drag queens went out in the 1980s, and it was a group of people who dress up in women's clothes and prance around bars from midnight to like 2 in the morning, something like that. It is not something you see in schools. So when you see the right wing prancing about with drag queens in schools, they're just lying. It's just part of the big lie. And another thing they've started is something called woke, another made up thing with drag queens. And they're saying that if you're vegan or vegetarian, you're woke, meaning left-wing radicals or something, which is ridiculous. Why are we letting this happen to our country here in the U.S.? It needs to be stopped, and stopped quickly, because they're quickly taking over all the government positions, secretaries of states, mayors, governorships, and what they do is they preach all this woke stuff, and then the right-wingers see it on Fox News and believe it, and the big lie just continues about how the presidential election was stolen and all. People of the U.S., you better wake up. You better start figuring out how you're going to vote, because you're voting in the wrong ways. In many cases, you're voting for the right-wing nutballs, the ones that believe in the big lie, or they probably don't believe in it, but they definitely spread the big lie. Because right-wing fascism is all about lying, isn't it? Always has been. I haven't seen a country yet that believes in fascism that's gotten anywhere in their governments, and they end up ruining the country and wrecking the environmental areas of their countries. So it's very important that we stop paying attention to the right-wing fascist nutballs like CPAC, which just closed out. Pay attention to it, study it, find out why it's so important to vote the right way here in the U.S. I'm going to go up here and start my video. Okay, what does strontium-90, cesium-137 have to do with the next video? Well, that's the half-life of strontium-90 and cesium-137 is about 30 years. Plutonium-239 has a half-life of 24,000 years. And uranium-238 has a half-life of over 4 billion years. It's good to know that, because there's a real risk of a nuclear meltdown in the Ukraine, according to the UN. The UN has called for an immediate end to any military action near Ukraine's nuclear plants. A very real risk of a nuclear disaster is happening there, because Russia is starting to shell near the plant again. They shelled the plant and hit a high-powered power line, which then caused them to disconnect that power line from the nuclear reactor. The IAEA chief, Rafael Marano, said he was extremely concerned by the shelling at the plant. The waste from a nuclear plant will be toxic for 250,000 years at least. Dealing with radioactive materials is still a very serious threat to the health of life itself. The risk of mining the uranium and transportation to a nuclear plant and storing the spent fuel rods in cooling ponds for at least $300 billion and counting for over 24,000 years minimum. There are about 440 nuclear power reactors in the world. That is about 10% of the world's electricity. So you're going to pay a lot of money for that electricity. Maybe not up front, but after a while of having to take care of all that spent fuel rods and nuclear waste of all sorts. As nuclear waste piles up, scientists seek the best long-term storage solutions. War is obsolete. There is no long-term solution for storing nuclear waste. The problem is they put it, whatever they do with it, they put it in glass, put it in aluminum canisters, whatever they do with it, the nuclear waste itself breaks that area down and starts to leak out of these containers. There are thousands of metallic God, these fucking mosquitoes. There are thousands of metric tons of used solid fuel rods and millions of liters of radioactive liquid put in temporary storage containers. Does that remind you of something? Fukushima, still sitting there full of nuclear radiation, which will soon be poured into the ocean. In some cases, the aging containers have already started and began to leak. We are handing this problem to our children, and nobody has an answer of what to do about it. They just know to keep on doing what we're doing, and don't worry about it. It'll take care of itself somehow. I'd like to know how. There are millions of metric tons of this radioactive waste already, and we've just begun with nuclear power plants. We're still building them around the world, and there isn't anybody much talking about nuclear radiation or nuclear waste. It's something we need to take heed of very quickly because of the time it has to be stored in a safe place and how the containers it's being stored in are leaking already when it's just started to begin the nuclear storage process. If nuclear waste is stored underground and these signs are blown away or gotten rid of because of war or something, someone drills down into that radioactive material and releases it into the atmosphere and doesn't even know it until it's too late. The problem with storing it above ground is it's susceptible to war. War is obsolete. War is what's going to cause these nuclear power plants to become a mess all over the world, especially the way we're going with the U.S. and China. Are we going to be in a war with China pretty soon? And if so, what will happen to the nuclear power plants all over the world when that big war starts? Going down the nuclear road is a very, very treacherous one and should be avoided at all costs. I definitely do appreciate all your comments on this video, your ups and your new subscribers. Subscribers are very difficult to get because people don't think about subscribing. They just come by every now and then and check out what the latest videos is. But if you subscribe, then you'll know what the latest videos are. I appreciate it, and until next time.